All right, today we're going to talk about rounding numbers. So if we look at this number 12, we think about there's 1 10 and there's 2 1s. So if the directions where we want to round to the nearest 10, we look at the tens place, okay? We can even underline or we can highlight this number, okay? Because that's the place value that's either going to stay the same or it's going to go up, okay? So this could change. Now, how do we decide? Okay, where's the decision maker here? So I like to say, okay, we got to look to the place to the right. Okay, so the ones right here are going to be the decision maker. And so what do I mean by it's the decision maker? So if we look at a number line, we're saying round to the nearest 10. So we want to know what tens are we dealing with here. So here, it's either 10, okay, or if we were to round up, it would be 20. And then here's my number line. 15 comes right smack in the middle, right? So if we said 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, right? So we want to know, is 12 closer to 10 or closer to 20? So where I say 2 is going to be the deciding factor, we can place it on the number line, right? So we said that 12 would be right here. So let me just put a little circle right there for you. Right, this would be 12. Now, we can also say, all right, if it's 5 or more, you go to the next floor or you go up, okay? This is 2. So 2 is less than 5, so it's going to come on this side of the number line. So we would round to the nearest 10. It is closer to the 10 than it is the 20, right? So we're saying if we were to round it to the nearest 10, so let's see, which two tens is the number between? It's between 10 and 20. 12 comes between 10 and 20. And if we were around 12 to the nearest 10, it would be 10. Okay? So let's look at this again. Okay, let's look at another example. All right, so here our number is 37. So I can underline or I can highlight my 10 because I'm rounding to the nearest 10. So here's my 10, it's a 3. Who's the decision maker? It's the number to the right. So here it's a 7. Okay, so if on my number line, let's think about what two tens am I talking about. So 37, I'm either talking about 30, and the next 10 would be 40. So 37 comes between 30 and 40. We want to know, is it closer to 30 or is it closer to 40? And the 7 helps us make that decision. Okay, so if again I take that little circle, right, here's 35, 36, 37. That's what 37 would be on the number line, right? And I remember I said to you, if the deciding number is 5 or more, you're going to round up. So in this case, 37 would be rounded to 40. Okay, 37 is closer to 40. Okay, so let's look at another one. Again, we want to round to the nearest 10. So our number is 81. There are 8 tens, and there's 1 1. So I first want to say to myself, okay, what two tens am I talking about? 81 comes between what two numbers? Right? It comes between 80 and, well, not what two numbers, what two tens. So it comes between 80 and it comes to 90, right? And then 85 is right in the middle. So again, I can underline this number or highlight it. And then I look at my deciding number. It's a 1. Remember we said if it's 5 or more, we're going to go up. And if it's lower, we're going to go round down. Okay, so 81. Well, that would be right here, right? On this side of the number line. So, okay, is 81 closer to 80 or 90? Right, it's closer to 80. So we would round 81 to 80, to the nearest 10, okay? We're saying which 10 is it closer to? Right here, round to the nearest 10. So we want to know which 10 is it closer to. So which 10s does 57 come between? Well, it comes between 50 and 60. Our halfway point is 55. So we're talking about 10s here. So we can highlight that. Our deciding number, our decision maker is 57, right? So we want to say, does 7 come on this side of the number line or this side of the number line, right? Well, here's our 5, 6, 7. So it would be on this side, right? It would be right here. Oops. Okay. So is it closer to 50 or is it closer to 60? Right? Well, it's closer to 60. So 57 would be rounded to 60. All right, let's try another one. Okay, this time it says round to the nearest 100. All right, so the place changed. The place value where we're rounding changed. So now I want to highlight my 100 because that's what I'm focusing on. I have to ask myself the question, what 200s does this come between? Okay, so it comes between 100 and 200. Okay, those are my two choices. Right smack in the middle would be 150. Okay, so let's look now, okay, at our deciding number, our decision maker, okay, because we're going to either keep this hundreds or we're going to go to 200s. We want to know if 139 is closer to 100 or 200. So we need to figure out where it's going to be on the number line, okay? And so 139, we're looking at the tens place, okay? So if I'm telling you this is 150, this would be 110, 120, 130, 140, 150. Okay, 160, 170, 180, 190, 200. So again, there's that 3. So see, we can say to ourselves, okay, is 3 less than 5 or more than 5? Because that's going to tell you where on the number line it's going to be. It's less than 5, right? So it would be on this side of the number line. And so this is 139, right? So this would be 110, 120, 130. You know, 130 with 9 would probably be over here, somewhere close to 140, right? But if we were to say this is the halfway point, is it closer to 100 or 200? Based on this number, it's closer to the 100, right? So 139 is closer to 100. Okay, let's look here. Round to the nearest 100. So we have 3 hundreds, 6 tens, and 2 ones. 362. We want to know if 362 is closer to which 200s are we talking about? So let's look at this number. Okay, that's going to tell us the first number. Okay, there's 300, so it's either 300. What comes after 300? 400, right? So now we just need to see, okay, let's look at our decision maker. It's a 6. Well, if the 5 comes here, this is our decision maker, then the 6 has to be on this side of the number line somewhere, right? So 362 would be on this side of the number line. So it would be rounded to 400. Okay. All right, this one says let's round to the nearest 100. So I'm looking at my 100. Okay, I have 4 hundreds right now. So if I have to decide which 200s am I going to be thinking about here, right? 400. Well, 400 is going to be the first on my number line. What comes after 400? 500. Right? 450 would be in the middle. And if we notice, right, that's why 5 is always that's why we can do that little trick. 15 was the middle number here. 35 was here. 85 was here. 55 was here. Right? 150 was here. 350. Now we're at 450. So see, that's why the 5 is the deciding factor. And we can say, you know, 5 or higher, you move up. And if it's below, the number stays the same. So here, if we say 489, this is the number 8. Is 8 bigger than 5 or smaller than 5? It's bigger than 5, right? So that means we would round up. That means 489 is somewhere on this side of the number line, and it's closer to the 500. Okay. All right, let's look at this one. Again, round to the nearest 100. So first thing I want to do is I want to underline or highlight my 100, because that helps me make some decisions right away. What hundreds are we talking about? Okay, well, 700 is the first one. What comes after 700? 800. Okay, remember our 5 is our cutoff point here. So I'm going to now I have my number line set up, right? 700, 800. Now I want to look at my number to the right, my decision maker. Okay, if it's 1 through 4, we're going to stay at the 100 we're with. If it's 5 or higher, we're going to go up 100. Okay, so this is a 1. So that's smaller than 5. So 716 means it would come on this side of the number line. So it's closer to 700. Okay. All right, let's look here. Rounding to the nearest 100. Okay, so 253. So we're rounding to the nearest 100, so I'm going to highlight my hundreds right away. And I'm going to decide, what are my choices here? What numbers am I going to put on the number line? Well, I'm starting with 200, so 200 has to go on my number line. What's the next 100 up? Oh, it's 300. So these are my two choices. Now I'm going to look at my deciding factor, the number that makes the decision. Oh, it's a 5. Okay, we said that if it's 5 or higher, we round up, right? So it's a 5. 5 or higher, we round up. And if I were to say, right, 253 would be somewhere around here, and it is on this side of the number line, right? So 253, we would round up to 300. Okay, so we'll take a quick look at that again. Here, we're rounding to the nearest 10, right? We highlighted that. We decided what numbers were going on the number line, the 10, the 20. So we looked at our deciding number. It was a 2. It was less than 5. So when we rounded 12 to the nearest 10, it was 10. When we rounded 37 to the nearest 10, we decided which numbers were going to go on the number line, the 30, and the next 10 was 40. Then we looked at our deciding factor. It was a 7. That's larger than 5, so we rounded up. So in this case, 37 would be rounded to 40, okay? Here, 81. We looked at our 10, because this is what we were rounding to. We said on the number line it would be 80, because that's what we're starting with, and 90 was the next 10. We looked at our decision-making number, which was 1. That's less than 5, So 81 was closer and rounded to 80. And here, we're still rounding to the tens. 57, we highlighted 5, right, because that means 5 tens. So we said we started with 50, the next 10 was 60. Then we looked at our decision maker, the 7. That's higher than 5, so we were going to round up. So 57 rounded to the nearest 10 would be 60. And this one, then we rounded to the nearest 100. So we said, okay, we highlighted our hundreds to figure out which hundreds we were talking about. So 100, the next 100 up was 200. Then we looked at our deciding number. We didn't have to worry about the ones at all. The ones made no difference whatsoever. We just looked at our deciding number, which was a 3. 3 is less than 5, so 139 was rounded to 100. Here, 362. Again, rounding to the nearest hundreds. So we highlighted the hundreds, which was a 3, so that meant 300 or 400. We looked at our neighbor, right? It was 6 tens. Again, we're not worrying about the ones. Ones have absolutely nothing to do with it in this case. Okay, we're looking at our tens. It's a 6. A 6 is bigger than the 5, so that means we're going to round up. So 362 rounded to the nearest 100 would be 400. Here, 489. We highlighted 400, 500. We looked at our tens place. It was an 8. An 8 is larger than 5. So that means we're going to round up. Okay, so we were going to go to the higher number. So 489 was rounded to 500. This one, 716, we highlighted, right? That told us that it was either 700 and the next 100 would be 800. We looked at our tens, right? This is the decision maker. It's a 1. 1 is less than 5. So 716 is rounded to the nearest 100 would be 700. It's closer to the 700. Excuse me. And this one, 253, we highlighted. We made our number line 200. The next one would be 300. We looked at our deciding number. It's a 5. 5 and higher, we round up. So 253 rounded to the nearest 100 would be 300, meaning it's closer to 300. All right, so let's review. Rounding is an estimation, right? You can underline or highlight the number in the place that you need to round to. You can draw an arrow to the place to the right. That's our decision maker. So see how I have the arrow here? You can certainly do that because that helps you focus in on which number you're focusing on. What is the, sometimes the other numbers make us confused. So when we draw that little arrow, it's showing, okay, we have to just look. Is it, less than 5 or more than 5? Okay, that's going to tell us which way to go. And then remember the decision maker. If it's 5 or more, go to the next floor. You can certainly come up with your own rhyme that makes more sense. That's just one, that I came up with. But there's other rhymes that you could make. But make a personal connection to yourself, because if it's meaningful to you, it's going to make more sense. People can come up with catchy phrases, and if it doesn't make sense to you, it's not going to stick with you. So you want it to stick with you. And, at least in the beginning, draw a number line to help you. So, because this is helping you decide which hundreds, right, are you focusing on? What are your possible two choices? When you're rounding to the nearest 10, nearest 100, nearest 1,000, you only have two choices. It's going to be whatever number's here and whatever number's here. So the number line helps you decide, well, what are my two choices? Well, we're talking about hundreds, so 200, 300. Okay, so drawing the number line, doesn't have to be super fancy, but it helps you decide which two numbers are you talking about here. Okay, so we're going to try some now. It's your turn, okay? So I want you to think about the strategies we talked about. So on a piece of paper, um, you know, says while you're doing these problems, use the strategies we discussed and don't forget to draw the number line to help you. All right, so here it says round to the nearest 10. So you're 32, you know, maybe you want to underline or highlight the number we're talking about. Think about what are your choices. Think about that 5 rule and come up with what you're rounding to. Here, the nearest 10 still on 48. Here, round to the nearest 100, 126, and 572. So I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to work on those. And you can stop. You can pause the video right here while you do the work. Okay. And then when you're done, unpause it so you can see how you did. All right. So when you're rounding to the nearest 10, right, you might underline or highlight. I'm talking about the 10 here. Okay. You might want to do your arrow. Okay. So I'm looking, right, 30, and there's my arrow. That's my deciding number. If I'm drawing the number line, and it's not easy to do with this, but I'm saying, okay, 30 or 40, right? Those are my choices. And now I'm looking at the 2, right? The 2 is less than 5. So if I'm deciding between 30 and 40, which is it closer to? Well, it's closer to 30. That would be the number. All right, 48. So I'm still rounding to the nearest 10. So I'm going to highlight the 4, right? Because that tells me my tens. So if I say, okay, so the 4, that means 40. And the next number is 50. All right, so now how am I going to decide if it's 40 or 50? I'm going to look at my deciding number. So I'm going to move my little arrow over here. Oops. I'm going to do that. Okay, so my little arrow is pointing at the 8, right? 8 is larger than 5, so that means I'm going to round up. So my answer would be 50. Here, round to the nearest 100. So I want to highlight my 100, right? I know that the next number is a 2. Well, actually, let me go here first. So I highlighted my 9, so that means I'm going to be 900, oops, or the next 100 up would be 1,000, right? So 926, I'm looking at the 2. Is 2 less than 5 or greater than 5? Well, 2 is less than 5. So 900 would be the number I rounded to. And then right here, 572, still rounding to the nearest 100, so I highlight my 100, and then I draw my number line. Okay, so if I'm talking about hundreds here, my choices are 500, and the next 100 up would be 600. I'm going to look at my deciding factor, that's 7. Is 7 higher than 5 or lower than 5? Is it greater than 5 or smaller than 5? Right, 7. 7 is greater than 5. So I would round up to 600. And that would be my answer. Okay, so hopefully you did well. Thank you for watching, and let's get some more practice. You can do this.